Vex Mythoclast, Destiny's first raid exotic. It is here again. And all I've been hearing is how terrible it is. I was able to get it on my 7th looted clear of Vault of Glass along with the Catalyst. So I want to take a look at this thing and see, is it really that bad? Or are people just exaggerating? So, Mythoclast. It's a fusion rifle that operates like an auto rifle with an exotic perk that turns it into a linear fusion rifle. Its base mode of firing is the same as it worked in Destiny 1. In Destiny 1, this gun had crowd control, aka Rampage. In Destiny 2, it has no such perks. Its exotic perk is literally just this gun fires like an auto rifle, and the other perk is what turns it into a linear fusion. As you get kills, 6 to be exact in PvE, 2 in PvP, you charge the weapon, and at maximum charge, you can hold reload to get to fire 3 linear fusion shots. Then it's back to normal. You will lose your stacks of overcharge if you swap weapons though. So it's a bit of an all-in-one weapon. Auto rifle for normal shooting, then linear fusion for when you need some chunk damage. Which all sounds good in theory. Mythoclast operates like a 360 RPM auto rifle. There are only 2 of these in the game that aren't Sunset. Age-Old Bond from Last Wish, and False Promises from... That's it. That's all we got in the game right now. Mythoclast deals slightly higher damage per shot than False Promise, but not enough to really make that much of a difference. That's where the advantage kinda ends. I mean, if you really want to use a high-impact auto rifle frame that can deal solar damage, this is your only option. I guess solar rounds are technically an advantage if you want to look at it that way. It also over-penetrates, which is nice, I suppose. Auto Rifle DPS compared to most other primary weapons, actually pretty good. SMGs and sidearms are still well in front, but compared to scouts, pulses, and hand cannons, auto rifles do pretty well. But SMGs are still pretty usable in most content if you're just looking for something to clear ads with. If I'm looking for auto rifle damage for ad clear, well, I have this False Promises with Overflow and Rampage, and it's not an exotic, and its range is way better. How about the Catalyst? Well, the Catalyst increases your stability for every stack of overcharge that you have, and it does produce a pretty noticeable effect. At full stacks of overcharge, controlling the weapon is incredibly easy. Even when not adjusting my aim at all, the gun stayed pretty straight. We'll talk about how to get the Catalyst in another video, as while it's not a lengthy process, it does have a lot of specifics that you need to know, oracle locations, plates, timings. It's a whole thing. Note that while I have the Catalyst now, everything I say about the weapon in this video is without the Catalyst. The Catalyst does not really change my opinion of the weapon as a whole. Maybe I'd give it like a slight bump up because of the stability, but overall my opinion hasn't changed. Alright, let's get away from the auto rifle stuff. Let's talk about this linear fusion rifle. You get a bunch of kills, you hold reload, bam, you have a linear fusion with 3 shots in it. And the damage seems pretty good until you compare it to an actual linear fusion rifle. 31k on this Lost Sector boss compared to 40k with an averagely rolled threaded needle, keeping in mind that Mythoclast charge speed is among the slowest in the game for a linear, while also keeping in mind that we have only pretty fast charging legendary linear fusions in the game. Mytho is 820. My threaded needle is 526. Even Sleeper Sim with the Catalyst is 774. But I don't think it should be expected that a linear fusion that uses primary ammo should be dealing damage equal to a linear fusion that uses heavy ammo, because that would just probably not make sense. However, given the conditions that you need to hit, you gotta kill some enemies, you swap it, it only gets 3 shots, and it's exotic, and linears have not had much time in the spotlight, you could probably bring this up a smidge in PvE and it would be fine. It's a one-shot headshot in PvP already, which is good because it should be that. One-shot body shot would be too much, but I think bringing the PvE damage up a little bit is fine. I imagine the concern here is just making sure it's strong enough to warrant its use, but weak enough that you would still want to use a heavy weapon for when you need to get down to business. That's a fine line to walk. This is an all-in-one weapon. It is meant to have versatility, but when you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. Plus, there are no fusion rifle-based seasonal artifact mods, meaning you're probably not going to have this in your loadout for endgame content either. If I'm using this as an auto rifle, there is a slightly better option in False Promises, unless I really need solar damage. If I'm using this as a linear fusion, it's a very conditional linear fusion that doesn't match the damage of a normal linear fusion. You are sacrificing damage for convenience and versatility. The issue is that we don't really need to bother with such a gambit in the game right now, at least in most lower end activities. It wouldn't be a new exotic without some sort of a bug that is affecting it in a way that is unknown as to if it should be affecting it or not. Was that even English? Did I just activate a sleeper agent somewhere? Can we talk good? As of this video, when you have a sword, rocket, or machine gun equipped, the rate of fire of this weapon increases for a short time. This is completely undocumented on the weapon, and given that it's only for some weapon archetypes in the heavy slot, I didn't really include this factor into my review because I don't know what the hell is this? I don't know if this is intended. I'm just not gonna bother guessing because it's not worth dwelling on until Bungie comments. The bug also does not affect my view of the weapon at all. Is it fun to use, Datto? You're so caught up in the end game, Nightfalls. Is it fun? It's pretty fun. It's a very unique weapon to use as far as weapons in Destiny go. You're never forced to use the linear fusion part of the gun if you don't want to, but it does offer some nice utility for whenever you're low on special or heavy and need a nice chunk of damage on something. But there are a lot of fun weapons in Destiny, and a good amount of them absolutely destroy things as well. PvP. It's a 360 RPM auto rifle with no perks. It feels like it kicks like a mother, even if it technically doesn't. The only reason I'm giving it respect is because the linear fusion aspect was, dare I say, kind of good. First off, it only takes 2 kills to fully charge, which is very acceptable. It did not feel like I suffered a dramatic amount of flinch, actually being able to not only connect with shots while under fire, but headshots, which I must say was lovely. People were just straight up not expecting or not respecting the linear fusion Mythoclast cross-map headshots. Even supers, just popping people in the dome. 2 super kills in 3 matches with a linear fusion headshot. You do need to pre-charge a fair amount of the time, but I gotta say, I kinda like how slow it was. Other linear fusions charge so fast that it can be tough to get the rhythm of the weapon. Almost like it fires when you weren't ready for it to shoot yet. This thing is not like a sniper. I feel like I could actually shoot it in linear fusion form while under some amount of fire and actually hit something. What's that? Oh, it has 100 aim assist. 100? 100. Okay. You sure? Okay. That probably has something to do with it. Probably has most things to do with it, now that I'm thinking about it. The range of the weapon was a bit more than I expected as well, given how much people were saying how terrible it was, but with how bouncy and unwieldy it can feel, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're actually hitting your shots, even if you are. False Promises can hit max damage from significantly farther away though, 22 meters for Vex and well over 30 meters for False Promises. I used False Promises to just kind of have a comparison, and you know, it wasn't that much better in the grand scheme of things. Sure, you can surprise some people sometimes with a rampage stack or 2, but that's not really common enough to write home about. Auto rifles can hold their own, but they are far from being the most competitive thing right now, frequently being responsible for in between only 1 and 2% of trials kills over any given weekend. Honestly though, I would pick Mythoclast over False Promises for PvP, although my False Promises does not have the best PvP perks. The opportunity to cross-map laser people is just too fun to pass up, but again, maybe if I had a better PvP role on False Promises, I'd be thinking otherwise. So is Mythoclast as terrible as I was anticipating? No, it's not that bad. It just doesn't really excite me that much. In PvE, 90% of the time, it's a 360 RPM solar auto rifle that cannot benefit from anti-barrier mods. That's fine, but I want a little more from my moment-to-moment use of this thing. The linear fusion part is more of a novelty to me, as in most low-end content, doesn't really matter what you use, doesn't really make a huge difference. In higher end, this has a bit more utility, but with how easy it is to get special ammo, and with how hard it can sometimes be to even get kills sometimes, I'm not sure I'm the most sold. I actually enjoyed using the weapon more in PvP than I did in PvE, simply because there are a wealth of PvE options for me already. The linear fusion part was pretty enjoyable in general 66 gameplay as a whole, but it's not the most competitive option. That's what I got for you on Mythoclast for now. A buff is coming. Bungie has acknowledged that Mythoclast needs a little bit of tuning, but it does not seem like we'll be getting it for a little while. I'm not too bent out of shape about that, though. There are definitely much more pressing issues in the game right now than giving Mythoclast a buff. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.